Morning friends, something again completely different, and you may not know, but recently I bought this fantastic amplifier head. It is a Peavey 6505 mini head, as in 6505 mH, and I've already customised it a little by removing the black wooden backing from the front grille, and I've taken these two motif logos from the back that were behind the grille and placed them in front, so it looks a lot better and we can now see all of the tubes. I've also swapped my preamp tubes. One thing I was not able to do was to check the bias of the power tubes, because I didn't have a bias tester. So I went and recently bought a bias probe, which is this thing. I'll explain more about this in a minute, but basically you stick that where the power tube goes and stick the power tube in top, and you stick these ends into your multimeter and you measure how many milliamps are across the plate. And this should be set to 22, and I guarantee it won't be, because the amp doesn't sound right now. It does. Now when I got it, it sounded really quite fizzy on high gain, which is not any good because it's a high gain amp. It's meant to be fantastic. Biasing the tubes doesn't really do that much, but if they are incorrectly biased, the amp could be running hot or running cold. I personally think it's running hot. But I have changed my preamp tubes and they have got rid of that fizz. I went for, but stock tubes in these are JJ12AX7 preamp tubes, and not JJ, they are Ruby. I'll tell you about Ruby in a minute. But your power tubes are JJ-EL84s. Now JJs have a pretty good reputation. I personally have never liked JJs. That's just my personal preference, but we actually do sound quite good in this. But the preamp tubes weren't up to much at all. And I did swap them out, and I only buy Russian tubes, and there's no phase inverter on this amp, so you don't need to worry about which V slot your balanced tube goes in. But say if you are using a balanced tube, stick it in V3, which I've done. There are 5 slots now. There's V1, 2 and 3, which are preamp tubes. There's V4 and 5, which are power tubes. So I've done exactly that, and I'll tell you what tubes I have gone for. And in my V1, to lower the gain, I went with a Russian Tungsol 5751 tube. In second spot, another low, that's low gain by the way. This another low gain one will be a Sovtech 12AX7WA, which is a low gain tube. And the balance one, I went with a 12AX7 by EHX, a gold pin one, which was properly balanced and set. I paid a little bit extra for that. I think it costs about 20 something quid. And that is in V3. So I've gone all Russian, Tungsol 5751, a Sovtech 12AX7WA, and a Electro Harmonics gold pin 12AX7 balanced and premium tested. So that are my preamp tubes. What I'm going to be doing next is I do have some new power tubes, which I don't think I really need. Tungsol EL84s, a matched set. I don't know if the JJs in here are matched. They should be. So what we're going to do today is we're going to remove the amp from the cab, from the case. We're going to put the probe. We're going to test each socket individually. We're going to put the probe inside. We're going to put the tube in. We're going to let the amp warm up on bypass. We're going to plug a speaker in. We're going to turn the amp on. It doesn't matter which wattage we do it on, but for argument's sake, I will set this to 20 watts, which is the highest. We have 20, 5 or 1 watt options on this amp. I will be set it to 20 anyway, but I'll be testing in all power, in the 20, in the 5 and in the 1. I'll be checking that the tubes are balanced, and we'll be checking the bias on them. I've never done this before. I've read quite a lot about it. I do thoroughly research everything I do if I've not done it before. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the amp from the box. We're going to get it all set up on the bench. I'll probably have to turn it around a little. We're going to get the probes all set up, and we're going to measure the milliamps and see what these tubes are putting out. And I'm thinking that this amp does get quite warm. It's another reason I've removed that piece of wood from the front, but I'm sure it's set quite hot, so we are definitely going to have a look at that. That said, it's not getting too hot, so I don't know. What difference do hotter tubes make? If they're running hotter than they ought to be, or they're running colder than they ought to be? I am not quite sure. I do not know. It's not something I've read up on. I'm not really that interested. I would just like this running at about 22 milliamps, which it should be set between 22 and 24. I think 22, a little bit colder, will be fine for me, because these amps they are very, very gainy. I have the gain on this set to about 3 on the lead channel, and that on its own is probably not enough, but with my overdrive in front boosting the signal, it is as much as I need, and I do play with a lot of gain. So I think this is definitely running hotter than it ought to be. So let me get it all stripped down. I'll bring you back in and we'll start taking some measurements. So I have everything set up. We have a bias probe plugged in with the first power tube in the probe. We have the probes plugged into the multimeter. The multimeter is off. We do have a bias adjuster there. It's by means of a hole, and we adjust it by using a flat-ended screwdriver. And I've got the amp warming up. If you can see where you are, the tubes are glowing, the power tubes. So are the preamp tubes. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn on multimeter into the milliamp range just here. Should be showing nothing at the moment. I'm hoping you can see that. And we are going to turn on the amp. We are on standby at the moment. We're going to turn it on and see what it's measuring. And I think it's going to be quite high. I think it's going to be around about 30 something, 28, 29, maybe 30. And we need that to settle a little bit. And there you go, 29.6. I always thought it was running a little bit hotter. So we are running at 29.6, 29.7. We are on 1 watt at the moment. I'm going to put the amp into a 20 watt mode, see if it makes a difference. So we are running at 20 watts. I have a speaker cable in there, so the load has been running at 29.99 there. 30 look, so it is definitely running hotter than it ought to be. We need to get this down to between 22 and 24. Just making sure everything's running hot. I can feel the heat off the tubes. So I don't know which way to turn this. I'm going to have a guess. I'm going to see up takes you up. No, it doesn't. That takes you down. So turning it clockwise takes you down. So we're going to adjust. So we can get right down to 8. I'm hoping you can see this on the screen. That's 8.57. We need to bring it up to about 22. Just less than 22 will be okay. There's 23. 19. So micro adjusting up to 27 there. 21.65. I'll be quite happy with that. We are measuring 21.65, 21.7. I'm going to leave that there. Just see if running it on 1 watt makes a difference. Not really. 21.73. And we're now going to check to see if these two are balanced. They should measure exactly the same. So I'm going to turn the amp off, swap the probe into this side. And notice we are missing the tube protectors, or these protect the bottom of the tube so you can't snap any pins. I've taken them off to get the probe in. So there you are, we are measuring 21.72 and we're just measuring that tube. So I'm quite happy with that. So we're going to put it back into standby, turn it off, unplug the mains. I'm going to let it cool down for 5 minutes. Once it's cooled down, I'm going to swap these two tubes around. We'll take that one out, put the probe into this side and see how balanced they are. Now remember we had about 21.7 on that side. So anywhere around about 21.5 to 22, I'll be quite happy with that. I'd class that as balanced. These two tungsol tubes are balanced. I bought them balanced. I got them from Hot Rocks UK. They are balanced to 6, whatever PC is and whatever TC is. They're both PC 6.9, we're both TC 3.6. I don't know what those measurements equate to for the PC and the TC, but I trust that Hot Rocks know what they're doing. These, by the way, tungsol, these are very highly respected and highly regarded, these tubes, and they were, I believe, £35 for the pair, which is cheaper than JJ's. I only buy Russian tubes. These are Russian tungsols, and these are supposed to be a nice tube. I may have gone for something if there's anything less gainy than that. I don't know if that makes much of a difference, whether it's Shiguang from China or Tungsol or Softex. I've always bought Softex in the past, EHX Electro Harmonics tubes are made by Softec. I used to have a Softec version of a 606. I can't remember exactly what they were called, but they were about half the price of Electro Harmonics and they are exactly the same tube. Do your research when it comes to tubes. There are only 5 tube manufacturers on the planet. So when you're buying Rubies or Tads or Fender or whatever, they will be made by one of the top companies, either Softec, Tungsol, Shagwang, and whatever the other two are. I don't know the other two. I think there's one out in the Czech Republic or somewhere around there. The 2 Russian makers I know of are Softec and Tungsol, and I always buy Softec and or Tungsol. So I've always bought Softec in the past, never had a problem with them. But anyway, these are not cooled down sufficiently yet, so I'm going to stop the video. I will remove these 2 tubes, making sure these are all marked up, by the way. I've got everything marked up on the board here: V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, as they are labelled by Peavey, and each tube has a number written on it corresponding to these V areas. Well, these new preamp tubes don't, because they're brand new, and I know where I want to put them anyway, but each V slot is marked up. So anyway, I'm going to start the video, I'm going to remove these tubes, move the probe over, we're going to come back and we're going to go and measure this one. I'll show this one from scratch. So, you just notice I put the guard back on that side. I have a guard for this side. The reason I can't have a guard on is because the wires on the probe stick out the side, and we will not be able to get the probe plugged in. So, nice and steady, pressing firmly. We are in all the way. Be very careful with the tube. Line it up. Can only go in the right way because you do have a pin missing in this area. You have 1, 2, 3, you have 9 pins and 1 hole. So we're just going to make sure that everything's lined up, which it is. Nice, even pressure. Pressing the tube. Notice that I don't have the power in yet. We'll make sure the speaker's plugged in. I do have a dummy speaker in there, so I can just press that button and I don't need to put a speaker cable in there. But anyway, we're going to put the power in. We're going to turn the amp on, and we're going to let these tubes warm up just for a short while. Just glowing straight away there. These 2 red lights here, when we turn the amp on, we're going to wait for these to go green. If they both go green, it means the tubes are in good condition and they're perfect working order. Now this one doesn't seem to glow at the top, but it does glow at the bottom. Don't know why that is. This one's glowing top and bottom, so this tube may be on its way out. I don't know. I do have new tubes, but anyway, we're going to turn it into milliamp, turn it on to milliamps again. There we are. I'm not going to measure anything at the moment because the amp is not on. And we're going to turn the amp on in a minute. We're going to watch for these to go green. This one measured 21.7 milliamps, so we're going to check this one. We're green straight away, which means these tubes are in good condition. Now these tubes have only had 6 hours before I bought the amp, so these tubes now probably had 8-9 hours. I've played the amp quite a little bit. It's probably only had 8-9 hours though, these tubes. We are on 20 watt mode, and that one is measuring 21.99, 22. Okay, so slight bit higher. It's 0.3, 0.4 higher than that one. Moving up to 0.5. So these are not perfectly matched. Does 0.5 make a big difference? I have absolutely no idea. But we're going to let that settle. 22.24. So 22.25. So that is up about 0.5 on the other one. I mean, that should be okay. I'm just going to drop this down to as close to 22 as I can get it. .96, 21.93. This will place your one about 21.4. 21.5, right, 21.9. 21.88. I'm very happy with that. Tiny bit colder. 21.86. Means the one's going to be down to about 28.4. Oh, 21.4, sorry. 21.4, 21.85. Let it settle. It's about 21.9. That will do me. So we're biased slightly cold, ever so slightly cold. 21.85 on that one, 21.4 on that. That's balanced enough for me. Really, really happy with that. Are we on the lead channel? Oh, we are on the lead channel. Does that make a difference? I've got no idea. Does that make a difference? No. A biased tube is a biased tube. So 21, just getting up to 21.9. Absolutely fine. I'm happy with that. That's where I'm leaving it. So we're looking at 21.4, 21.9. Happy with that. I'm going to remove the tubes, remove the probe. First, let's remove the power so we don't blow anything up, particularly me. So that is my MH, my PV6505 MH now with balanced tubes. These are the stock JJ tubes. I do have the tungsole ones. I'm going to try and get the money back for the tungsoles because these seem to be fine. The guitar, the amp sounds fine to me, especially now I've swapped these preamp tubes. It's a lot better. But if we're not going to take the tubes back, the tungsoles, I'm going to swap them over just to see what difference it makes. And chances are I'm going to keep the tungsoles in. So I'm going to be selling the rubies and the JJs. These JJs will fetch a fair price. Should get about 30 quid for them. The ruby tubes, the 3 preamp tubes, if we got 50, if I sold the lot for about 45, 50 quid, someone's going to get a good deal because the tubes have only been used for 6, 7, 8 hours. Someone's going to get a good deal, and I've got my tubes. These tubes, the replacement tubes I bought, the 3 preamp. Actually bought 4 preamp tubes. I bought a spare. I always buy a spare, and just buy a spare. I just have a general standard 12 AX7 by Electron on it. It's Russian made. I got this tested. I always get them tested and balanced. I think this cost me about £14. That will be a spare. Not that I'll ever need it. Maybe I could sell that on. I don't know. But anyway, I have biased the power tubes in this. I'm sure the amp is going to sound fantastic. It does sound fantastic, even biased at 30. 30 was too hot for me. I want to get the longevity out of these tubes, so quite happy with that. Get it all back together and bring you back in soon. So here we are with the amp all put back together. I've got it more or less set how I set it. I have a resonance. Everything's all about, well, I say 12, but it's not. Bass is on 1 o'clock. Middle is going on for 1 o'clock. Treble is on about 12 o'clock. I've got the resonance set at about 1 o'clock, and the presence set about 2:30, getting on towards 3 o'clock. I could bring the treble up slightly and drop the presence a little bit, but I do actually quite like it there. On my clean channel, if I'm playing clean on this is not a clean amp. It's not meant to be a clean amp. So if you're playing clean on here, you're going to want to drop to your neck pickup. Drop reverb down a little bit because this reverb is really picky. It's there's a lot of reverb on this. So if you want to play decent rhythm on this, or decent clean, drop the volume on your neck pickup, and I tend to play it kind of here like this. So I'm down to about 7 on my volume, on my neck pickup, and we'll just give you a quick. So a very passable, clean tone. I've not practiced, I've not warmed up, I'm going to leave my mistakes in. It's not about how well I play, it's all about the sound coming from my amp. into the metal channel, which is what you're waiting for. Obviously with treble pickup, treble and volume and tone on 4. This is double clean. Got my EQ the same. Lead tone, we're on 3 on the post gain, we're only on about 3 on the pre gain. And let's just crack into that channel. And that sounds a little bit dull as it is. So you're going to be wanting more gain. But it still sounds like there's something missing. And there is, and it's why with these amps I always have an overdrive in front used as a clean boost. And we'll just crack on there. And I think we're going to get a much better sound. So there you go, and that is virtually my tone set up like that. Now, me being familiar with playing, I mean, I started out playing punk music, so that crossover between punk and metal, which you knew was, we called it crossover back in the day, around about 1983-84, and that'd be my style. I can more or less play anything. I play anything from punk to metal with this setup. Like I say, with the presence. Does virtually everything. So that's it. That is how I have my Peavey 605 MH set up. Sounds absolutely fine. Got rid of all that hiss and that fizz. We've biased the power tubes just that little bit colder. We're biased just around about 22 milliamps, which is fine. A bit more EQ adjusted. I'm sure we'd get it sounding really, really perfect. I could even put an EQ pedal in the effects loop, which does have a built-in effects loop. But it sounds pretty good how it is to me. I'm going through a 2x12, by the way. I'll explain the gear 1 minute. Go for a 2x12. It's a Harley Benton 2x12 with vintage 30 speakers in there, which is brilliant. I'm getting rid of that. I've actually just bought the 1x12 version of a V30 because it's going to take a little bit less space, and that'll be absolutely fine for this. So my setup, Peavey 6505MH with a Harley Benton vintage V30 Celestion vintage 30 speaker in there, 1x12. The drive I'm using to clean up or to tighten up my sound is it's an MXR modified, custom badass modified overdrive. That's just came in the post yesterday. Just bought it, but I normally use my Boss Super Overdrive. This is a Keeley modded version, so we've got different drive options in there, diodes or germanium or whatever. Clipping options is what the word I'm looking for. Great pedal this. This is how I use it. Tone in the middle, drive completely off, level at 3 o'clock, and that's it. And all that does is it gives me loads and loads of sustain. I absolutely love this pedal. But I've got the MXR modified OD in there, the custom badass one, again, which is great. Don't know if I'm keeping that one. And EQ more or less, everything more or less at 1 o'clock on the EQ. Same here, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and that's it. Great amp. My gain, like I say, is down quite low on 3. I'll let my drive boost all of that. The tubes are glowing nicely. There's no excess heat in there. Some people struggle with heat problems in these. Bias your tubes low. It works for me, and I've got lower gain tubes in the preamp section. So there you go, that's my setup. That is my amp now set up with the tubes biased properly and everything put back together. Good thing about this now is I can bias tubes for other people. I need to get the other probe for the bigger tubes, and I can bias people's amps as well as work on guitars. So that's it, this is done. So one thing left for me to do before we go is to remind you of my website, which is facebook.com/ng17. That's facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. I am Victor, I am your fret friend, not wearing my glasses, can't see a lot. But until next time, as always, God bless you, be good to each other, and I'll see you in the next one.